Hey nerds, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing another episode of Read and Rouge, the series on my channel where I simultaneously put on my makeup and do a book review. And on this episode of Read and Rouge, we're going to be covering Everything by Nicola Yoon. I know this book is very old. But before we get into that, I just want to thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Now let's get into this. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the book jacket so we can get a little overview. My disease is as rare as it is famous. Basically, I'm allergic to the world. I don't leave my house. I have not left my house in 17 years. The only people I ever see are my mom and my nurse Carla. But then one day a moving truck arrives next door. I look out my window and I see him. He's tall, lean, and wearing all black. Black t-shirt, black jeans, black sneakers, and a black knit cap that covers his hair completely. He catches me looking and stares at me. I stare right back. His name is Ollie. Maybe we can't predict the future, but we can predict some things. For example, I am certainly going to fall in love with Ollie. It's almost certainly going to be a disaster. So, there it is. That explained everything and nothing at the same time. Oh my god, I don't think I'm gonna make it through this without sweating. I'm sweating so much because I can't have the AC on while I'm filming because the camera is literally right underneath the vent. And if I have it on, all you're gonna hear is okay, so I'm sacrificing my my face and my body temperature for the sake of a good video. Oh, something else, just a quick little update before we get started on the book. So now I have a new method on how I'm going to roll out these Read and Rouge videos. Take a listen. So, as some of you may have seen, I posted a poll, I think, a month, 2 months ago, and I had 3 choices for books for the next Read and Rouge. There was The Pairing, Everything, and The Return. And obviously, as you can tell by this video, Everything won. So that's what I'm gonna do from now on. I'm just gonna have 3 books, and I want y'all to choose which one you want to see the most on the next Read and Rouge episode. Not only does this give y'all more of a chance to like choose what you want to see, but it gives me more time to read. I can read more books this way. Instead of just making one video after every book that I read, it gives me more time to read faster. So yeah, this is our new method. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah. So this book does not have chapters. There's just like parts. So I'm just gonna go part by part within the book. You know how we do. So our main character in the book is Madeline, or Maddie for short. And we were kind of introduced to her, you know, while we were reading the book jacket. And as we read in the book jacket, she has a very rare disease. It's called Severe Combined Immunodeficiency Disease, or SCID. And basically she's had this disease ever since she was a baby. And because of this, she has not been able to leave her house for her entire life. She's basically allergic to the world, so she can't really go outside or she's gonna spontaneously combust or something. And also the reason for her staying in the house is because of her mother, Pauline. Her mother, Pauline, is a doctor. She's some kind of physician, but she took on the role of being Madeline's full-time care physician, you know, because she's so paranoid about her daughter's disease and health. And she is mainly the reason why Maddie has been confined to the house for the past 17 years. Maddie, 17. Sorry, didn't mention that. And then this book has a lot of illustrations in it, and one of the very first illustrations we see is a daily log full of Maddie's vitals. It shows us things like her breaths per minute, the room temperature, resting heart rate, stuff like that. I don't know what the room temperature has to do with her vitals, but I digress. Then Madison starts describing her bedroom to us. It is stark white. Matter of fact, most of the house is stark white. And there's a reason why everything in the house is white. It has something to do with it being more sterile, it being more clean. I guess you can see more germs that way. I don't know. Don't ask me. But the only color that she has in her room comes from the many books that she has resting on her bookshelf. And as we come to find out, Maddie loves to read. This is her way of escaping her house, her room, and she likes to go on adventures when she's reading all these very fun stories. She even in her spare time has a little blog where she does like spoiler reviews. They're like one sentence. Spoiling the entire book. So on the inside of each book, she has a message and it says return to Madeline Whittier if, you know, found or something like that. And the reward is that you get to go scuba diving with Maddie. And she always reminds herself, like, these books are never going to be lost because I can't leave the house for me to lose them. So I know I just said this book doesn't have chapters, but I'm going to say chapters just to be, I don't know, it just helps me. So next chapter, and it is now Madeline's 18th birthday. And her mom takes the day off so she can spend some time with her. So every year, for Maddie's birthday, they have this tradition where they play phonetic Scrabble. They bake a vanilla cake with vanilla frosting, all white cake. Isn't that just angel food cake? Or am I wrong? I don't know. And they end the night by watching the same movie they do on Madeline's birthday, which is Young Frankenstein. We love a cultured queen. And the day after her birthday, her nurse, Carla, is back in his house. We mentioned Carla briefly when we read the book Jacket. And I like to think of Carla as Maddie's second mom. They're just so close. And Maddie thinks of her as her best friend. And because they're so close, Carla frequently comments on the relationship that she has with her daughter, who is 17. Carla is pretty sure that her 17-year-old daughter wants nothing to do with her, whereas Maddie, like, she confides in Carla for, like, pretty much everything. The two just have a very sweet, close relationship with one another. I did enjoy. And honestly, who else can she confide in that's not her mom? Carla. So next chapter, and Maddie and Carla are just, you know, doing their daily routine, when they hear a beep, beep, beep outside the house, right? It's a moving truck. And this has startled both of them because there hasn't been a moving truck in this neighborhood for years. And Carla's already getting worried because the last time that there were neighbors across the street and they moved away, Maddie got really hurt. She was so hurt because this was like her only, I guess, vision into the outside world, and she got really attached to the family that was living next door. And when they left, she felt like she had been abandoned. Mind you, she was a child when this happened, so she had a diary at the time, and she wrote in it that she felt like aliens came to invade the earth, but they only took the healthy people, and they left her behind because there was something wrong with her. That just added to her, you know, isolation and loneliness. And I'm like, oh my God, for a child to even think that way because they're so lonely, that's sad. The whole alien bit that I just explained, that was a dream that she kept having as a child. But the only person who knows about this dream is Carla. She didn't want to tell her mom about it because she was afraid that that would make her mom double down even more about her not going outside or getting attached to things that are outside where she isn't. So Carla is the only one who knows about the alien thing and the whole neighbors debacle. So we flash back to the present, and Madeline goes to look out of her bedroom window to see the new family moving in across the street. And she sees there's a mom, a daughter, and a father. And then she sees him. She sees a teenage boy dressed from head to toe in all black. Enter Ollie. And for some odd reason, he just starts to do parkour, just jumping off of shit, flipping everywhere to and from. And this amazes Maddie because she's never seen anything quite like this before. And then Ollie senses that he's being watched, so he looks up at Madeline and he waves, and then she just kind of inches back her way from the window. So next chapter, and Maddie decides that she's going to start stalking the family next door. She's keeping track of everybody's daily schedule. She notices that most everyone in the family has a regular schedule except for Ollie because he does whatever the hell he wants. And we also get a glimpse of how it is on the inside of the house. The little sister, she smokes cigarettes, right? And the mom sees her smoking cigarettes and she's like, you put this out before your dad finds out and he comes out here and sees all this stuff. And Maddie gets a hint like, okay, strict parents maybe, or strict father at the least. And this is also where we find out that Ollie's bedroom window is directly across from Maddie's bedroom window. And he's still doing parkour and just living his life. And Maddie's just so intrigued because she finally has something interesting going on in her monotonous life. So next chapter, it's Friday night dinner. You know, it's Carla, Maddie, and Pauline. They're having some kind of French cuisine. And Maddie has a modified version of it because, you know, all of her allergies. So she's eating like a very watered down version of whatever French cuisine that everyone else is eating. This isn't just any French cuisine. This is one of her father's favorite foods. Spoiler alert, not really. Maddie's father and brother are dead. They died a long time ago. They died when Maddie was just a baby, but that comes up later in the book, so it's important just to remember that they are dead. And in the middle of dinner, Pauline asks Maddie, like, you know, are you all right? And Maddie's like, yeah, why? She goes, well, you're falling behind on your schoolwork. Like, you know, what's distracting you? And Maddie's kind of like getting a little nervous inside because she can't tell her mom that the new boy across the street is distracting me. So she makes something up and says, oh, I'm just really, you know, I'm reading a very good book right now, and that's what's got me distracted. And Pauline just shakes off. She's like, okay. But Carla knows. She's like, girl, it's that damn boy. It's the gentleman across the street. So while they're eating dinner, the doorbell rings, ding dong, which is also very rare because no one really comes over to the house. Guess who's at the door? It's Ollie and his little sister, yes. And when I say little sister, I mean like a year or two younger than him. Ollie's probably like the same age as Maddie, 17, 18. And the little sister is like 16. Anyway, Pauline gets up to see who is coming over to her house at this time of night. And she's like, can I help you? He's like, hi, my mom made this bun cake for you. She wanted to send it over. She does this every time we move. FYI, the cake is disgusting. And Pauline's like, oh, that's nice, honey. No, thank you. We don't need a cake. And then before Pauline could slam the door on these children, he goes, is your daughter home? And Madeline's ears perk up. She was already listening around the corner, but her ears perk up because she was like, did he just ask about me? And then Pauline was like, my daughter. And he was like, yeah, I was wondering maybe she could show us around. And then Pauline was like, she can't come outside. And she just slams the door. Now, the special thing about their house, like I said, Pauline is a doctor. She got Monty, of course. So their house is like kind of sort of a smart house. So after you come in the house, there's like this air seal vacuum space that like sanitizes you before you walk anywhere else into the house. So it's the next chapter. This is like right after Pauline slammed the door on Ollie and Cara. She goes to see what's going on across the street. And Ollie's dad has returned home from work. He is angry and he starts an argument with Ollie. And they get to like, you know, pushing and shoving a little bit. And the bundt cake goes flying. The plate that was holding the bundt cake cracks, but here's the bundt cake in mint condition. It hasn't crumbled, it hasn't broken, it hasn't split. It's still all in one piece. It's like rubber. But yeah, just another night of watching the family across the street. This has become routine for Maddie. So Maddie confesses to Carla that, you know, my life was so much easier before they moved in across the street. And Carla's like, why do you think that? She's like, because now I feel even more depressed about being alone and isolated because now there's someone within my reach and I can't even go interact with them, which fair. And Carla, being the G that she is, she's like, honey, you are so strong for like even expressing your feelings and acknowledging them, and this will pass. Like, this feeling will pass. She's just so good. That's why I say she's a second mom. Next chapter, and one night Madeline hears something pitter-pattering against her window. She's like, what is this? She's like, what the hell is going on? So she goes to her window to open and see what's going on, and there's the bundt cake with googly eyes on it. And she sees Ollie come up behind it, and he is about to start a whole chain of events where he's narrating and putting on a play of this bundt cake's life. It's a goofy bit that he starts to do every night, you know, trying to get Maddie to notice him and laugh at him. And at the end of this show, Ollie finally asks her for her email address so they can talk to each other. Next chapter, and Ollie and Maddie have started emailing each other quite frequently. And the very first thing that Maddie asks Ollie is, what is that bundt cake made of? Because it's literally indestructible. And we see their development grow, you know, as they keep writing to each other over the weeks. They start to become friends and they're getting to know each other. It's kind of nice. Maddie finds out that Ollie's family has moved quite a bit, and they're originally from the East Coast. J to the E to the T to the S. Jets kick ass from east to west. If y'all know where that's from, put it in the comments. So Ollie asks the burning question like, yo, why can't you come outside? And at first, Maddie is avoiding the question because she doesn't want to answer that. And then likewise, she asks the burning question about him like, you know, why is your father the way that he is? And Ollie obviously doesn't want to answer that, so he drops it. Alright, next chapter, and we see that Maddie is working on a school project. If you couldn't tell, she's homeschooled because she, you know, she can't leave the house. And she has this architecture class that she's been taking for a while, and each time, whenever she has to make a new model, she'll place a hidden little astronaut figure in it for her teacher to find. So Maddie finds out that Carla knows about her obsession with with Ollie, and she's like, listen, I understand where this is coming from. And Carla allows Maddie to keep, you know, chatting with him, IMing and emailing, all that stuff. She's like, as long as you don't get too caught up, and as long as you don't become devastated when they move away, if they move away, then fine, you can keep talking to him. She's like, oh, it's fine. I'm fine, Carla, it's gonna be fine. Spoiler alert, I don't think so. And then immediately after she said, you know, you can keep chatting with him, Maddie starts pressing for him to come to the house, which is a no-no because I don't know if I already said this, but being that Pauline does not want Maddie to go outside, you can imagine how she doesn't want anyone else to come inside because she doesn't know what kind of germs or other diseases people may be carrying, and she wants to keep her daughter safe, which I get. So no one is allowed in the house except for herself and Carla. That's it. And then there's maybe a few people who are authorized to come in, like a tutor or something like that. But other than that, no one gets in, no one gets out. And then Carla's like, girl, you know we can't have people over here. Your mama is gonna flip. And she's like, that's why we aren't gonna tell her. We're gonna keep it a secret. She's like, girl, I'm not gonna lose my job over some stinky ass teenage boy. Until one day, Carla gives in. I think that's the maternal side of her coming out. She's like, you know what, fine. She goes, as long as you two stay on your side of the room and y'all don't touch, he can come visit. And as you can imagine, Maddie's over the moon because she can finally talk to someone in person that's not her mom or Carla. This is where we have the first meeting. Dun dun dun. And I'm just kidding. So the house has an artificially heated sunroom, you know, because no outside air can get in or it's gonna make Maddie sick. So it's recycled air. You know, it's got like a fake tree, fake bushes, all that stuff like that to make Maddie feel like she's outside. Big old glass window to create the illusion that she's actually outside. And upon first meeting, Maddie realizes how physically attracted she is to Ollie. Which, listen, of course, the first teenage boy that you come across in person, you're gonna think they're fine as hell because you really haven't had any interaction with other people your age, let alone a teenage boy. So yeah, because what if Ollie wasn't all that cute to begin with? What if he was just like the first teenage boy she's seen in person? And as you can imagine, this is pretty awkward. You know, they're both teenagers and this is their first conversation that's not over an IM or an email. And they banter for a while, they talk and it's going well until it comes to an end because Carla's like, hey, playboy, it's time for you to go. So in the days following, you know, this first in-person interaction with Ollie, Madeline has diagnosed herself with a new disease. Hysterical abdominal rhopalacera. And rhopalacera is a scientific name for a gaggle of butterflies, right? So she basically has butterflies in her stomach. Abdominal rhopalacera. Yeah. She's like, I only ever feel this way when I think about Ollie. Oh, to be a teenager again. Oh my god. And because of the gaggle of butterflies in her tummy, she thinks that this may be a heightened sense of anxiety, or she thinks that she might be getting sick. And Carla reassures her that you just have a good old fashioned crush on a boy. You're fine. Your vitals are fine. You just like this boy. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. So next chapter, and the two are still, you know, IMing, chatting, whatever, and they start flirting with each other. Just a little bit. They start flirting with one another. And they're trying to decipher if they're gonna be like more than friends. Push comes to shove. We don't know. And Carla is making Ollie and Maddie wait like weeks in between visiting each other just to make sure that Maddie isn't getting sick, which, you know, good call. And this is torture for Maddie because, you know, now that she's had a little taste of human interaction, she wants some more. Next chapter, and the next visit with Ollie is coming very, very close. So Maddie is nervous because she wants to try something different. She wants to try some new clothes. She goes online and buys a whole bunch of clothes in different colors. Now this is important. You remember when I said that the house was like stark white? Well, apparently so is Maddie's wardrobe. All of her shoes, all of her pants, all of her shirts, white, right? She wants to look nice. She wants to look nice for Ollie, you know. It's getting serious, I think. So the next time Ollie comes over, Maddie finally, you know, confides in him and tells him what happened to her dad and her brother. We found out how they die. They were killed by a truck driver who was falling asleep at the wheel. And this prompts Ollie to say that he wished that people's behaviors could be controlled like outputs and inputs of a math equation. He's like, that way, you know, we won't have chaos and, you know, people won't be so unpredictable. And him even saying this kind of gives off an alarm, you know, because does this mean that he wishes he could control his father's behavior so he's not so abusive and aggressive toward his family? So after this visit is over, there's no doubt about it, Maddie has fallen head over heels for Ollie. So next chapter, and Maddie is very conflicted at this point. She realizes that, you know, her keeping this secret from her mom that Ollie has been visiting and that she's even talking to Ollie is causing them to drift apart in their relationship. But she still don't feel bad enough, so she keeps talking to him online anyway, even though she can tell that her and her mom are growing apart. Girl, boy, crazy, honey. And it's even worse, like, it's even worse because this is her first boy. Her first boy toy, her first boyfriend. So like she don't know how to act. And the more she keeps talking to him, the more she starts to buy colorful clothes. And then she's starting to associate her emotions with each color of, you know, some type of clothing article. But here's what you gotta know. She has been making all of these purchases on her mama's credit card. So her mom sees it and she's like, yo, so what is this I'm seeing about you purchasing all these clothes of different variety of color? What's this? And then she's like, oh, you know, just wanted to try something new. And her mom's like, oh, okay. But on top of all this, we are seeing Ollie's dad become even more and more aggressive towards his family, and Maddie is like just watching all this happen from her bedroom window. So it's next chapter and it's the next visit, and Ollie finally decides to open up about, you know, the story of his dad's alcoholism. And it started when Ollie was 10 years old. He got laid off at a job, and I guess, you know, that embarrassed him, and then that transitioned into self-pity, and then he started taking out his anger on his family, and it's been like that ever since. Next chapter, and the distance between Maddie and her mom continues to grow. It's like a cavern is forming. She even goes as far as to cancel movie night, something they do all the time. She just cancels one time, and this really hurt Pauline's feelings. And then even Carla's noticing, and she's like, girl, your mom is asking me if you're okay because you canceled movie night on her and you hurt her feelings. She's like, don't forget that's your mama. Like, I know you're excited about Ollie and you want to explore that, but don't forget about your mama. Your mama has been there for you. Don't forget about your mama now. This secret is hurting your mom and it's breaking you two apart. She's like, you know what? He can't come over no more. And then that got Maddie's attention real quick. She's like, no, he's not doing anything. And then Carla backtracks. She goes, okay, you know what? Fine. He can still come over, but you gotta promise me you will make some more time for your mom. Like, stay connected with your mom. And so after this little conversation, Maddie takes it upon herself to apply for her own credit card. Girl, she wants freedom. Next chapter, and Maddie has noticed how her feelings have grown for Ollie, and she is scared of that. So initially she pushes him away just a little bit. She's like, I don't know how to feel right now. Like, these feelings are a lot. I don't know what's going on. And then she reaches out to him again saying, you know what, I'm sorry. I was just kind of like, you know, having a moment. But then she also says, I do want to talk to you about, like, you know, us. She basically says, What are we? So next chapter, and it's the next visit, and Ollie is trying to teach Maddie how to do a headstand because, you know, he'd be doing parkour because, you know, parkour is his thing. He'd be flipping and jumping and, you know, all that stuff. So after a few failed attempts, she finally gets it on her own, and then she goes to do it again and she almost falls, and then Ollie catches her by the bare ankle. They're not supposed to be touching. They're supposed to be on opposite sides of the room. They're not supposed to touch each other. And Maddie is feeling some type of way because, first of all, she ain't never been touched like this. Mind you, it's her bare ankle, but still, she ain't never been touched like this before. She's like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. And then this ankle holding transitions into hand holding, and they're holding hands, just staring longingly into each other's face. And they decide to hold hands until Carla sends him home. Later, they're I-amming each other, right? And then Ollie's like, I just really want to kiss you. And so this gets Maddie's heart rate going. Like, first time for everything. First time for a crush. First time for touching a guy's hand. So being that he said that one thing to her, she researches. She does research on how to kiss because she's never kissed anybody before. She even makes a whole study guide, you know, on the perfect places to practice kissing and all that stuff. I'm like... So next chapter, and it's their next meeting, and finally it happens. They kiss each other, girl. And of course, Maddie thinks this is the best thing ever since sliced bread. She's just losing her ever-loving mind. Like, girl, and they were still talking about it, you know, after he went home that night. To be a teenager again, oh my gosh. Experiencing your first kiss and then just like being so giddy hours after it happened. That emotion was captured very well here, I will say. Took me back for sure. But after they were talking about how great the kiss was, they also established that they shouldn't do it again just so Maddie doesn't get sick, which they're being very cautious for a couple of teens because most teens I know would have just said it. So this is the next day, I think, or later on that day, and Maddie and her mom are in the living room playing phonetic Scrabble when they hear a commotion outside. They both go to the window, nosy as hell, to see that Ollie is in a confrontation with his father. So they're yelling, they screaming and whatnot, and Ollie's dad hits him, just for everybody to see. Hits him. Maddie is just so afraid for his safety that she, without thinking, she runs outside. She runs out of the house to go save Ollie. The kiss was that good where you had to risk your life? And then she goes over there. She's like, Ollie, are you okay? Oh my God, like, are you okay? And he's looking up. He's like, girl, what the are you doing outside? He's like, girl, I'm fine. Go in the house. And then right on her tail, here comes Pauline. She's like, Madeline, get in the house. Get your ass in the house now. And once she gets her back inside, she's like, girl, why would you do that? Why would you risk your life for a complete stranger? And this is when Maddie drops the bomb. We're actually not strangers, Mom. We've been IMing for like the past few weeks and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's the only thing that she tells her mom. She didn't tell her about Ollie coming over to the house because that would have been... And this does scare Pauline a little bit because she knows that Maddie is going to get attached, which she already has. They kissed, girl. She gone. So this is the next chapter, and this is where starts hitting the fan. So one day, Pauline's in the sunroom and she finds a black hair tie or something, and she notices that this black hair tie is Ollie's because she's seen it on his wrist before. So this is how she finds out that Ollie has been in the house without her authorization. And there's like this big heated argument going on, and guess what? Guess what she does? She fires Carla for having him in the house just for that reason alone and endangering her daughter. And Maddie's like, oh my God, no, not Carla. You can't take her. You can't fire her. And Carla doesn't want to leave, but she's like, you know what? I broke the rules. I gotta go. I felt bad for Carla right here because, oh my goodness, you just lost your job because of a stinky ass teenage boy, just like you said. Coming from Pauline's side, I do understand why she did it, because your one job is to keep my daughter safe. And you jeopardize that I don't know how many times because you let this little boy come into my house without my authorization. And you know nobody can be in the house but you and me pretty much. So you endangered my daughter, so you gotta go. I do understand that. But damn, firing her, damn, like dock her pay like a little bit, but firing her, goddamn. And it hurts so much because Carla has been there pretty much since Madeline was a baby. So as punishment, Maddie has her internet access revoked. So they start using handwritten notes instead, you know, to communicate with each other. And they're both checking on each other. They're like, oh my God, are you okay? And they're like, yes, I'm fine. I just miss you so much and all that stuff. But Ollie is still afraid of his dad and how he has been acting. And on top of all of this, Maddie's getting a new nurse. Pauline and Maddie are still trying to work through their anger, you know, with each other. And Maddie tries to tell her mom how great Ollie is and how she's just, you know, she's just happy when he's around, but Pauline isn't as understanding as Carla, unfortunately. Next chapter, and Madeline now has a new nurse by the name of Janet. Damn it, Janet! And it's an instant dislike. Maddie does not like this lady. She's very strict, she's older, and she just mean as hell. And around this time of the new nurse showing up, Ollie and his little sister Cara have started school. And like I said before, Madeline's internet access has been restricted, but she's only allowed to use it during school hours. So like when the school day is over, she can't be on the internet. And during the school day, she's using that time to IM Ollie as much as she can, which is not very much time. And Maddie thinks that their relationship is starting to suffer because they're not talking as much as they used to. And then one day, Maddie happens to look across the street and Ollie pulls up in his Jeep. She sees a girl getting out the passenger side. And she's all giggly like, oh my God, Ollie, you're so funny. Ollie, you're so smart. And this scares Maddie because she was like, did he move on that fast? Cause I ain't had no internet. Maddie is starting to become a little depressed and she cancels another movie night with her mom. She's so mad she is withholding mommy-daughter time. That is serious. So in an effort to, like, you know, get through to her daughter, Pauline comes upstairs with a picture, and it's a picture of the entire family. It's her mom, her dad, and her brother. It's a picture of when Maddie was just a few weeks old. Her brother was 4 years old, and then, you know, her dad was still alive and well, and they were standing on a beach in Hawaii. I guess Pauline showed her this picture to get to her daughter's soft spot or something, to forgive her. So later that night, Ollie comes to the window with a note saying that the girl was just a lap partner, you know, ease your frustration. And Maddie was like, okay, I'm not worried about it, I'm not jealous. Girl, yes you were literally seething. You said that she took your Ollie. You were mad. Maddie is starting to realize how much excitement that Ollie has brought into her life, because before it was just dull and colorless, and now that she has Ollie, she's beginning to, you know, feel differently about life and about people. She even goes as far to say that books don't do it for her anymore because she wants to experience the real world now that Ollie has graced her fingertips. And me as a reader, I'm like, oh my God, I thought you loved books. She started thinking crazy thoughts. She's like, I am willing to die to experience the world. I'm like, okay, hold on. I get that you've been holed up in the house your whole life, but risking your life, especially for a funky ass teenage boy that you just met like a few weeks ago, that is a little insane. But she's a teenager, and we all know that teenagers are dramatic, so what did I expect? So it's the next chapter, and Maddie has decided to run away. And she even writes like a Dear John type of letter to her mom explaining everything. And I'm like, damn, at least she left a letter. Most kids won't even do that. I forgot to mention this. It's like a side detail, but it's still important. Maddie is biracial. She's half black and half Japanese. So she sneaks out of her house like at the crack of dawn, and she gets Ollie to come outside. He's like, oh my God, are you okay? What are you doing outside? So they end up going to the roof of his house. He is trying to understand, like, why are you outside? Like, what are you doing right now? And it's early as hell. And he's telling her, like, girl, it's not safe for you to be outside right now. And she's like, oh, don't worry. I have new medication that helps me. Of course she's lying. She told Ollie some fabricated lie about some experimental drug that she bought online. He can tell it's bullshit, but he doesn't question it too much. So he's like, okay, sure you did. And then while they're on the rooftop, Maddie discovers that Ollie has made his own orrery out of random objects that he has found. So after the whole lie about the experimental drugs, Maddie tells Ollie that, hey, I got us both tickets to fly to Hawaii. You're coming with me. She's like, yeah, I just bought it with my brand new credit card, and if we go, we have to go now. And Ollie needs a little convincing at first, but then he ultimately decides to run away with her. But before they go to the airport, they decide to make a stop by Carla's house, pay her a visit first. And as you can imagine, just like Ollie, she's like, why the hell are you outside right now? What are you doing here? And Maddie feeds Carla the same lie about the experimental drugs, and Carla's kind of looking at her sideways, but she lets her go anyway. So next chapter, and it's after they have landed in Hawaii. We're recounting all of Maddie's feelings about being on the plane for the first time, seeing the world from that high up, like she has never done any of this before. It's like everything is happening to her all at once. And while they're waiting for their bags on the carousel, Ollie's being deep again. He's like, people are like the bags on this carousel, just going round and round in circles. Anyway, a driver picks them up, and on the way to the hotel, Maddie sees the ocean. They have the driver pull over so she can go jump in it, because, you know, she's never seen the ocean a day in her life. And she's wading in the water, right? And she just feels a magnitude of freedom, and she's just one with the earth, because she's never even touched grass before. So imagine how she's feeling floating in the ocean in Hawaii. Next chapter, and we see the two checking into a hotel, and they think it's funny that the staff thinks that they're on their honeymoon. They're 18, by the way. They're both barely legal. Just keep that in mind, yes? So they get to their room, right? And they find that there's only one bed for them to share. This is awkward because this is going to lead to the conversation of them, you know, having sex and then eventually actually doing it. So, you know, it's awkward just a little bit. But they change the subject to the book that Madeline has brought with her on the trip. It's her favorite book. It's The Little Prince. And Ollie sees the message that she has on the inside of all of her books, you know, the reward. And as you probably have noticed, Maddie is very anxious about this entire thing, and she's starting to feel a little woozy, and she's worried that she may be getting sick. Turns out she's just hungry. She just needs something to eat. So they go have lunch, and then they go to this gift shop to get, you know, souvenirs and such. And then Maddie decides that she wants to buy a bathing suit, damn it. Maddie is having a realization. She's like, I've never looked at my body this way before, and I never thought if anyone else would like be attracted to my body, because now that she has a boyfriend, like appearances matter all of a sudden. And then when she steps out of the dressing room and Ollie sees her in her bathing suit, she has confirmed that he is indeed attracted to her. Next chapter, and Maddie and Ollie are on the beach together. They're snorkeling with the turtles and the fishies, and she's telling us even though she has to wear a life jacket because she doesn't know how to swim, she feels so alive and free in the water. And as the trip goes on, their sexual tension and attraction towards each other is getting stronger, but they try to find things to do to take their mind off of it. And Maddie is having so much fun that she decides to go cliff diving for the first time. Like, this cliff is like, what, 20-30 feet in the air, and she jumps off of it, honey. She's living her life to the fullest. She's living like Larry. So they get back from doing their little excursions of the day, and they're at dinner or something, and they run into a friend of Ollie's who is from New York. And during this little meet and greet thing, Ollie gets an email. And it's from Pauline. She's like, I know where the two of you are, and I'm on my way there. And he shows Maddie, and she's like, damn, well, you know, this was bound to happen. So she is really honing in on enjoying these last few hours that she has with Ollie, because when her mom gets there, it's done. It's gonna be over. She's not too sad about it because she's out experiencing the world for the first time ever, and she's just trying to keep her mood up. Even her mom coming halfway across the country is not enough to bring her mood down. So Maddie and Ollie go back to their room. There's still heavy sexual tension, so they decide to talk instead of acting on it. And this is where they finally say I love you to each other. Ollie's like, this is him, this is him. He goes, I've been in other relationships and I've had a lot of feelings, but they don't compare to what I feel with you, for you. And here goes Maddie. Well, this is my first time being in a relationship, but I know that I am falling in love with you. I know that I am in love with you. So they both say I love you to each other for the first time and they just go to sleep. Next chapter, it's about an hour later, they both wake up from their nap and they decide to go watch the sunset together as a couple. And like I said, Maddie is really trying to hold on to these last fleeting moments that she's having with Ollie in the outside world because she knows her mom will be coming soon to retrieve her. And then finally they do it. They bump pocketbooks, they hunch and munch, so yeah. That's it. The next chapter after that just delves into Ollie telling Maddie more about his dad's abusive nature. He tells her, like, at first, you know, he was very apologetic about it, and then as the years went on, he just didn't care. And then Maddie finally puts her 2 cents in, and she says, you know what? You need to get away from your dad. It's not safe. Now this is where the hits the fan again. So later that night, Maddie wakes up and she's feeling funny. She's got a fever and she's dizzy. And there is a searing pain throughout her entire body. And within an instant, Ollie is on the phone with 911 trying to get an ambulance to her. And she remembers getting on the ambulance, riding, and then it goes black because her heart freaking stops. But then it starts back up because of the meds that they gave her. So now that she knows that she has to go back with her mom, Maddie is starting to slip into another depression again because she now views her home as a prison. And she's also so mad at her mom about the whole firing Carla thing and then, you know, taking away her privileges. So, but most of all, that she will be separated from Ollie. So when they get back home, Pauline like redoes Madeline's room as like a hospital ward or like a hospital room. It has a drip IV and everything. And she's looking over her constantly just to make sure that she's okay. And she keeps her on heavy medications until she's good enough to not be sedated anymore. And I guess out of pity, because, you know, she fell ill out of her care, her mom gives her back her I am privileges and she starts talking to Ollie again. And even though they're talking, Maddie somehow feels like Ollie is slipping away, like their relationship is like changing. So she decides to break up with him over I am. And I'm just like, why would you do that? And I think she did it because it's not the same as being in the same room with him. And I'm like, girl, okay, but at least you're still able to talk to him. And I get the feeling that she has, like, basically it's long distance because you're so close yet so far. I get that. But why end it? Y'all can still talk to each other. Y'all can still date. You just can't touch each other ever again. And who knows if Pauline was going to let him come over ever. But I get that. But breaking up with someone over text message, that's never a good call ever. So next chapter, and Maddie is depressed. She is so depressed that she makes a map of her heart. And there's different locations on her heart, like the mountains of misery and the depression foothills. She's going through it. She's literally feeling everything all at once. And she starts to delete some of the emails that Ollie has sent her, even the ones that were unread. Like, he's been sending emails left and right, trying to talk to her, you know, trying to get a hold of her. Within a month, Maddie is back to her normal self. You know, she's still reeling from her trip to Hawaii, and she's kind of half-assing her relationship with her mom because she's still very upset with her mom. And being that Pauline is so desperate to get her daughter back and have that relationship back with her, she even rehires Carla. Like, she must be desperate because she was really, truly, honestly pissed off enough to fire her. So her bringing her back is a whole nother thing. Pauline's like, you know what, Carla can come back. I feel like you've learned your lesson about the outside world. Girl, don't dangle the carrot like that. Like, don't make it seem like you're doing me a favor. Next chapter, Carla's back, and the minute she comes back to work, Maddie is just bawling her eyes out, you know, venting to her about Ollie and how much she misses him and how sad she is about the whole situation post-Hawaii. And she's also telling Carla that she feels like her mom hates her for running away. And Carla, being the amazing second mom that she is, she's like, mothers can never hate their daughters no matter what they do. She doesn't hate you. And then we see a moving van outside again. We see that the mom, Ollie, and Cara are escaping that house. They're leaving the abusive dad, which good for them, but Maddie knows that this is goodbye and Ollie is probably never coming back ever again. So this makes her even more sad. She's sadder. And then a month after the family moved out, Ollie's dad left the house too. So there's nobody in that house. And this is when Maddie decides to open some of the unread emails that Ollie sent to her over the, you know, few days that they weren't talking. And then in one of them, Ollie tells Maddie that his mom felt so encouraged, you know, from Maddie leaving the house and enjoying the world, that inspired her to pack up, take her kids, and get out of that relationship. Next chapter, there's more emails. Ollie sends an email in haiku form telling her that he loves her. And then while she's reading all the Ollie emails, she gets an email from the doctor in Maui that she visited when she was in the hospital. And then here comes a twist, y'all. You know I love a twist. The doctor in Maui says that he doesn't think that Madeline has skid or has ever has skid. He thinks, or they think, I don't know if it was a woman or a man, but they think that she suffered some kind of infection, some cardiovascular infection, and that was what made her sick. And the doctor also thinks that this infection happened because Maddie's immune system wasn't exposed to the outside world like everybody else is, so it doesn't have that same strength to fight off infection. That's why she got so sick so easily. And not only that, the doctor has test results, receipts, all that stuff attached to the email. And as you can imagine, Maddie's world has completely been flipped on its head. It's crumbling as we speak. Because how would you feel finding out that your entire life was a f***ing lie? And then at the very end of the email, the doctor suggests that she get a doctor that isn't her mom, mostly because of conflict of interest, but the doctor thinks that her mom was too emotionally attached to Maddie to actually look at her health from a professional viewpoint, which I agree. So next chapter, Maddie wastes no time. She goes to confront her mom immediately. She goes, the doctor in Maui says I don't have skid. What's tea? And her mom was like, oh honey, I'm sorry that the doctor got your hopes up, you know, but you are sick. Your condition is just so rare, but you are sick. And then just like that, Maddie's dreams are crushed again because she ends up believing her mom over the other doctor. And then she shows the email to Carla, and Carla's like, damn, well, the receipts are right there. I'm looking at the test results and it's pretty damning. Even Carla is saying that maybe your mom's grief was messing with the perception of how serious, you know, your sickness was. And that's probably what led her to falsely diagnosing you with skid. And Carla tells Maddie that she's gonna help her get more information on what's going on with her. We love Carla, Team Carla. So next chapter, and Maddie decides to break into her mom's office in the middle of the night, and she's skimming through files and all this stuff, and she's finding all the paperwork from when she was a baby, because when she was a baby, she was in the hospital for like 3-4 days straight because she was so sick she almost died. And she was looking through all the notes and the paperwork and like the list of doctors that she was going to when she was in the hospital, and all the paperwork says the same thing. They concluded that Maddie was healthy. She just got a little sick. And then Pauline walks in, Maddie gets caught red-handed. She's like, girl, what are you doing? And Maddie confronts her again. She's like, Mom, do I or do I not have skid? She's literally shoving the files in her face saying like, they said I didn't have it when I was a baby, so what's going on? And then Pauline tries to play dumb. Well, it's in here somewhere. Are you sure you looked everywhere? Because there's paperwork saying that you have it. And she's like, Mom, come off it. Come off of it now. Do I or do I not have skid? So Madeline has concluded that her mom has been lying to her for her whole life, telling her she was sick and she couldn't go outside and shit. But anyway, it's the next chapter, and Carla sends Maddie to a skid specialist, and he said the same thing that the Maui doctor said. No signs of skid. You just have a very weak immune system because you weren't exposed to outside things like everybody else was. You just got a weak immune system, honey. That's it. But you don't have skid. It doesn't look like that to me. And as you can imagine, Madeline is pissed at her mom. And then Carla's like, you know what? You should stay home for a while. I know we just got the news that you don't have skid, but you need to take things slow. Maddie even contemplates reaching out to Ollie and telling him that she's not actually sick, but she decides against it. Next chapter, and we see that Pauline has gone to a therapist to work through her trauma because Carla was right. Her grief was so heavy that it warped her mind, and she falsely diagnosed her own daughter. Which, let me say this, coming from Pauline's point of view, how do you deal with that type of grief alone? Like, you lost your husband and your 4-year-old son at the same time, and you were left alone to raise your newborn baby girl. But, and I get that tragedy happening made you want to protect her like all the time at every second, but lying about falsely diagnosing her Lying about it and keeping her entrapped in that house for her whole life is crazy. That's where I draw the line. Because ma'am, madam, I get you want to keep your baby girl safe, and then she did get sick, so you were thinking that she had some kind of, I get that. But keeping this girl entombed in her own house. Hello? And now that it's been confirmed that Madeline isn't sick, Carla resigns. I got very emotional at this part because I'm like, Carla, no, don't leave. We just got you back, girl. But she's like, I don't need to take care of you if you're not sick, so I'm a dip. I'm a go. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. But yeah, after Carla's gone, Maddie starts reminiscing about Ollie and his makeshift orrery. So it's the next chapter, and Maddie decides to run away again. She's gonna go to New York to try and find Ollie. She wants to track him down and finally get her closure, I guess. But the difference is this time she actually tells her mom before she leaves. And of course Pauline is like, absolutely not. She's like, I'm against it, but do what you gotta do. You're an adult now. And you're not sick, just be careful. And then she also tells her doctor that she's going to travel, and he's like, hey, make sure you're careful. Your immune system can't keep up like everybody else, so be careful. And that's it. She's jet setting off to New York to find her love, and she's bringing a little prince with her. So it's the last chapter, and Maddie finally touches down in New York, and she's at this used bookstore, and she places her copy of The Little Prince on one of the shelves. And then she texted Ollie instructions on how to get there and to find the book when he gets to the shop. So he walks through the door of the shop, right? And she's hiding in the stacks, like looking all behind the books, from behind the books and stuff. And he's scouring the aisles until he finds her copy of The Little Prince. He opens it and he sees the message, return if found. And you know how it said, you get to do this and this and this with me, Madeline Whittier. And then she changed the message to reward if found, me. And then she emerges from behind the stacks and she's like, so, are you gonna claim your reward or not? And they reunite, and they just, it's a happily ever after. So yeah, that was Everything by Nicola Yoon. Hold on, let me show her off one more time. This bad girl right here. Hardcover. Now that we have finished the book, I'm going to do my thing like I always do. I'm going to give a little bit of commentary that I picked up from the book. So the first thing I want to talk about is the use of color in Everything. So it's very simplistic, but it is there. The use of color in Madeline's life is tied to her emotions and how she's feeling, and it's also very physical. We see that physical manifestation, in the beginning, knowing that her entire room is white, her clothes are white, her shoes are white, everything is white. She has like this very pristine, clean, blank life, and then Ollie comes along with his all black fit and his colorful personality, and he's a stark contrast to what she's known all her life. It's very literal in that sense, but it like I said, it's there. And then also when she started to buy all those clothes in different colors, I think that was her physical manifestation of expressing the emotions she was feeling, because she said some colors made her feel giddy and other emotions that she was probably feeling at the time. And then also her life in the house versus her life out there. She went to the most colorful place that you could probably think of, Hawaii. Just having that stimulation after being somewhere so long where there was like little to no color, I feel like that gave her, I know this sounds cheesy, but it gave her a splash of color in her, mentally speaking, because this opened a whole new door for her. This is really small, but I wanted to touch on it. So Pauline finally going to therapy after years of the tragedy that happened with her husband and her son. I wanted to point that out because, listen, like I said earlier, Maddie is half black, half Japanese. Pauline, her mom, is black. Now, in the black community, mental health is overlooked quite a bit. Some people don't believe in it. Some people label it as white people problems, which I never understood. Everyone has a mental health and everyone needs to take care of their mental health. But in the black community, mental health is like, it's a non-thing, and people don't believe in therapy sometimes. And so the fact that Pauline, who is a doctor herself, did not take herself to therapy until years later, that speaks volumes. That kind of reached out of the book and kind of like went like this to my face. Because it was so real in the fact that, you know, especially Black women, like mental health is not something that is, you know, pushed to the forefront for us, especially in the society that we live in. So yeah, it got very real very fast. I also want to talk about the mention of outer space in this book and the commentary on that. Now, I didn't really talk about it much when I was going through the plot, but there were a lot of analogies and metaphors dealing with space. The little astronaut is one of them. And the reason why Maddie is so obsessed with space, outer space, is because that's how she feels. She feels like she's floating out there in space, no tether. She's just floating along. She feels like she has no control whatsoever over her life, and then she just feels isolated because, you know, in space no one can hear you scream, and I bet that girl has been screaming in her head for years, being as lonely and alienated as she's been her whole life. So I get that. And then we also see it with Ollie too, you know, him creating that orrery out of random objects. He just has like a, you know. I also want to hone in on the commentary of mother-daughter relationships because I think it's very important. Now, as we know, Madeline is an only child and it's just her and her mom. And you know, sometimes mother and daughters have a relationship that is reminiscent of them being friends. I feel like it never got to that point. Being that Pauline was also her daughter's primary care physician, there was always some kind of professional air between the two of them, like it was doctor-patient when it came time for her to, like, you know, check up on her daughter. And there was the mother-daughter, you know, they had the time where they were, you know, making cakes together and watching movies together. They never reached that. They never crossed that line of like being, oh, my mom is my best friend, oh, my daughter is my best friend. It was just, you know, traditional mom and daughter when it wasn't doctor-patient. And being that Pauline was so professional with her daughter in that way when she was taking care of her, I think that kind of fed into why Maddie couldn't confide in her mom about everything. That's why she had to go to Carla. Now, bringing Carla to the forefront. They also have a mother-daughter relationship, Carla and Maddie. And this is why I say Carla is a second mom to Maddie. She was with Maddie day in and day out, taking care of her when Pauline wasn't there, right? And she gave Maddie that tough love, you know, when it came to Ollie and pushing the boundaries. But you could also tell she had like a very tender, you know, spot for Maddie in that sense, because basically that's her baby too. She was with Maddie since she was like a toddler or something. So yeah, that's her second daughter. And also being that she had access to that trust from Maddie, that being that she was the receiver of all those secrets and, you know, those important conversations, you know, that was the other side of that mother-daughter relationship that she was missing with Pauline, because she felt like she couldn't tell her mom anything because it would just worry her. The commentary on teenage independence. Wow. All I have to say is to be a teenager again, because as a teenager, you're getting to that age where you're starting to make a lot of your own decisions, still with your parents' supervision and, you know, advice. And then when you hit 18, that's when, you know, most people say, get out of my house and go do your own thing. And then there are some people who don't do that. Seeing Maddie go through that process of her, like, you know, growing up and making her own decisions, being that she is 18 but still a teenager, it kind of put me back in that place as a teenager, you know. And also when it finally comes time to have that conversation with your parents, like, hey, now I have boundaries now that I'm 17, 18, 19, however old. Now I'm going to share my boundaries with you. You have placed rules and boundaries with me as a child and coming up, and I've respected those rules and boundaries, but now it's my turn to give those to you as my parents. You know, I feel like her scope of finding her independence was much more broad because she has been locked in the house for her entire life. So gaining her physical independence was just as important as gaining her, you know, verbal and emotional independence. And one more thing before we end, I have like so much more, but like I really want to end this with this. I think that Ollie was the physical embodiment of risk. You know, before he came along, Maddie was safe and she really didn't take any risks. She didn't dare to even think that way. She would dream and daydream, of course, do all that stuff, talk to Carla about it. But then when he came into the picture, Maddie kind of had this new air of like, oh, I want to try things. I want to, you know, I want to go outside. I want to touch skin. I want to do all these things. I want to run away to Hawaii. I want to go with you to Hawaii. He represented like the unknown and also the intrigue of the unknown, because, you know, I feel some people are very drawn to like what's out there in the world, the unknown, and they don't know what they're going to come across, what they're going to experience. And I feel like Ollie represented that, you know, pull, like, oh, like I want to know more. I'm curious about the outside world. That was his embodiment. That was his representation to me, I think, but I could be reaching. But yeah, that was my commentary and just a little bit, just pieces, you know, whatever. Now, usually for Reading Rouge, if you're new here, I will do a dream cast, and this is what I always say. If the book is good enough, I can see it playing out like a movie in my head, and I'll go through the characters of the book and then cast them as if they were going to be in an upcoming film adaptation. Well, this book already has a film adaptation that came out, what, 2017, I think? And honestly, I wouldn't change anything. It was pretty darn close. Pretty darn close to the original. It was good. But I want to say this about everything about the movie. Amanda Stenberg, she was everywhere in the late 2010s, like for teen dramas. She was everywhere. Could not escape her. And then him. What's his name? Wait, I gotta look it up. Nick Robinson. He was everywhere too. We could not escape these two for some reason. But I think they did a very good job of portraying, you know, these characters. I remember when this first dropped, and then the movie dropped afterward. This was such a big deal. And I know this is very old because it was like, what, 2015? That was like a decade ago. That is crazy that I'm even saying that. But this was in my school's library for some reason. I found it. I said, oh, that movie just came out. Maybe I'll read it. And then I actually went and saw it in theaters with one of my friends. I forget who it was, but we went and saw it in theaters, and I was so excited because I read this book. I swallowed this whole thing in like 3 days, probably less. 15-year-old me in this book, oh yeah. Oh yeah. If I had to rate this book, I would give it a 10 out of 10. Mostly because of the nostalgia. Because I remember reading this as a teenager and then sharing some of those feelings that Maddie had as a teenager, all of those first experiences. It just made me feel seen, of course. And then reading this back, I was like, ah. I was reminiscing again. It just felt very nostalgic to me. And 2015 was a time. 2015 and 2017 specifically, that was a freaking time. But yeah, everything by Nicola Yoon. So that concludes our video for today. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. This is my look. Sorry, I was going too fast. This is my look. Pink and stuff. You like pink? I like pink too. And if you made it to the end of this video, comment an astronaut emoji and subscribe if you want to. I'll see y'all on the next go around. Okay, bye.